He's always been cheap, Mia said, laughing as she swirled her wine glass. Still clips coupons like we're living in the Depression. I stood frozen in the restaurant doorway, holding a small gift bag. Her anniversary dinner. The one she'd invited me to 3 days ago, though her voice had sounded reluctant even then. I'd driven 40 minutes through traffic, wearing my best button-down shirt, the one without oil stains. Around the table sat 6 of her friends, women in designer dresses with perfect hair. They smiled at Mia's joke, polite but engaged. Eric, her husband, leaned back in his chair, smirking. Tom still drives that ancient pickup, he added. Thing probably burns more oil than gas. More laughter. Mia didn't defend me. Didn't even glance toward the entrance where I stood, gift in hand like some fool who didn't know when he wasn't wanted. The hostess touched my arm. Sir, can I help you find your table? I shook my head, backing toward the door. Wrong restaurant, I muttered. Outside, the autumn air hit my face. I walked to my truck, the one Eric had just mocked, and sat behind the wheel. Through the window, I could still see them laughing, celebrating their 3rd anniversary in a place that cost more than I used to make in a week. I set the gift bag on the passenger seat and started the engine. The drive home took forever. Every red light gave me time to think, to remember things I'd tried to forget. Double shifts at the garage when Mia was 8. Her mother's funeral when she was 12. The overtime hours so she could have dance lessons, college tuition, a wedding that cost more than my yearly salary. I'd given her everything I had. Somewhere along the way, that had become something to be ashamed of. My phone buzzed. A text from Mia? Dad, where are you? Thought you were coming tonight. I didn't respond. What could I say? That I'd heard her mock the man who'd raised her alone? That her husband had joined in, and she let him? At a stoplight, I looked at the gift bag. Inside was a framed photo from her childhood, the 2 of us at the lake. She'd been 6, missing her front teeth, wearing a sundress I'd bought at a thrift store. In the picture, she was laughing, and I was holding her up so she could see the water. Back then, I'd been her hero. Now I was her embarrassment. The light turned green. I drove home to my small house, the one I bought 30 years ago, and never bothered upgrading. Why would I? It was just me. Morning came too early. I made coffee in my old kitchen, staring at nothing. The framed photo sat on the counter where I'd left it last night. I should have thrown it away, but I couldn't. My phone rang. Rick Patterson, my accountant and oldest friend. Tom, you coming by the office today? He asked. We need to finalize those acquisition papers. Right. But papers? In all the hurt from last night, I'd almost forgotten about the biggest change in my life. 3 months ago, everything had shifted. My small auto parts company, the one I'd built from nothing over 20 years, had been acquired by a major manufacturing firm. The payout had been substantial. More substantial than anyone knew. But the real surprise came after. Through the merger, I've been offered a silent partnership in a holding company that specialized in buying and restructuring local businesses. They wanted my operational expertise, my understanding of how working-class companies actually function. I'd said yes, quietly, without telling anyone, not even Mia. I'll be there in an hour, I told Rick. I drove to his office in my old pickup, the one Eric had mocked. It ran perfectly fine, got me where I needed to go. Why replace something that worked? Rick's office smelled like old paper and coffee. He pushed a folder across his desk toward me. Silverline Transport, he said. Final acquisition went through yesterday. You're now a majority stakeholder. I opened the folder. Silverline Transport. The name rang a bell, though I couldn't place it immediately. Mid-sized logistics company. Good reputation. Steady profits. Standard acquisition for our holding firm. Employee rosters in there too, Rick added. Usual due diligence stuff. I flipped through pages of financial reports, operational summaries, personnel records. Then I saw it. A name that made my coffee taste bitter. Eric Sullivan. Division Manager, Client Relations. My son-in-law worked for a company I now partially own. Rick noticed my expression. You okay? I closed the folder. Fine. Just surprised. Small world, Rick said, though he knew more than he was letting on. He'd been at Mia's wedding, had watched Eric parade around like he'd won the lottery by marrying my daughter. I left Rick's office with the folder under my arm. In my truck, I sat for a moment, staring at Silverline's address printed on the cover page. Coincidence, nothing more. I hadn't bought the company to get revenge or prove anything. I bought it because the numbers made sense. But still, the irony wasn't lost on me. 2 days later, a package arrived at my door. I recognized Mia's handwriting on the label. Inside was the framed photo I tried to give her at the restaurant, wrapped in tissue paper. No card, no explanation. Just the photo and a small post-it note stuck to the frame. We don't really have space for old things. I read the note 3 times, each word cutting deeper. Old things. That's what I'd become to her. Something outdated, embarrassing, taking up room she'd rather fill with newer, shinier pieces of her life. I set the frame on my kitchen table and stared at it. The little girl in the photo looked so happy. Where had she gone? When had she learned to look down on the man who'd raised her? My phone buzzed. Another text from Mia. Got your gift? Thanks, but we're minimalist now. Less clutter, minimalist. Right. I'd seen photos of their house on social media, back when I still looked. Every room filled with expensive furniture, artwork, decorations. Nothing minimal about it except their space for me. I typed a response, then deleted it. Typed another, deleted that too. Finally, I just wrote, understood. 1 word. Same as I'd used when her mother died and I had to tell her we couldn't afford the bigger funeral she wanted. Same word I'd used when she chose an expensive college and I'd worked 3 jobs to make it happen. Understood. I always understood. Rick called again a week later. We're having a partners meeting Thursday. You should come. Important updates on the Silverline acquisition. I've been avoiding the office, spending my days in the workshop behind my house. Old habits. Even with money now, I still liked working with my hands, fixing things that were broken. I'll be there, I said. Thursday came cold and gray. I wore my good jeans and a clean flannel shirt, the closest thing I had to business casual. The holding company's office was downtown, in a building that made me uncomfortable with its marble floors and modern art. In the conference room, 8 other partners sat around a glass table. Most were younger than me, wearing suits that cost more than my mortgage payment. They nodded politely when I entered, the blue-collar guy who'd lucked into their world. The senior director, a man named Howard, stood at the head of the table. Gentlemen, let's discuss Silverline. We've identified some operational concerns that need immediate attention. Thank you, Dad. Thank you so much. I knew I could count on you. After she hung up, I sat in the dark, phone in hand. I could make a call, could tell Howard to ease up, give Eric a warning instead of termination. I had that power now. But Eric had stolen from the company, had lied, cheated, covered his tracks, and then had sat in his expensive house, mocking the man who'd raised his wife, the man who now technically had control over his career. I didn't make the call. The meeting happened on a Wednesday. Howard had invited me to attend as a silent observer, sitting at the end of the conference table where I could see everything but remain unobtrusive. Eric arrived 20 minutes late, his tie askew, sweat visible on his forehead despite the cool office temperature. He didn't notice me at first, focused on Howard and the HR director. Mr. Sullivan, Howard began, we're here to discuss irregularities in your expense reports over the past 6 months. He laid out the evidence methodically. Each false report, each fabricated receipt, each lie documented and proven. Eric's face went from confused to pale to desperate. This is a mistake, he stammered. I can explain all of this. Please do, Howard said calmly. Eric fumbled through excuses. Mixed paperwork. Accidental duplicates. Honest mistakes that anyone could make. His voice got higher, more frantic, as Howard calmly refuted each claim with documentation. Mr. Sullivan, the HR director, said, we have hotel receipts showing you charged the company for stays in Seattle when building security footage proves you were never there. We have restaurant bills from establishments that have no record of your visits. This isn't confusion. This is fraud. Who authorized this investigation? Eric demanded suddenly. I want to speak to whoever's making these accusations. This is targeted, a witch hunt. Howard glanced at me. The investigation was authorized by ownership. Then I want to meet with ownership. Now, the room went quiet. Howard gestured toward the end of the table. Mr. Sullivan, may I introduce Tom Ellery? He's one of our majority stakeholders. Eric's head turned. His eyes found me sitting there in my flannel shirt and jeans. The color drained completely from his face. Tom. Eric's voice cracked. What are you doing here? I didn't move, didn't speak. Just held his gaze. You work here, he asked stupidly. He owns here, Howard corrected. Mr. Ellery is part of the ownership group that acquired Silverline 3 months ago. I watched Eric's mind work, processing, connecting dots he'd been too arrogant to see before. All those comments about blue-collar workers. About people who couldn't play in the corporate world. About my old truck and cheap clothes. I don't understand, Eric said weakly. It's simple, Howard replied. You've been stealing from a company that Mr. Ellery partially owns. You've been lying to management while sitting in his daughter's house, eating meals he likely paid for, mocking the man who built himself from nothing. Eric looked at me, desperate. Tom, this is a misunderstanding. I swear, we're family. You can fix this. Can I? I asked quietly. Fix it the way you fixed things at lunch that Sunday? When you explained how some people are built for blue-collar work and others have real business sense. His mouth opened, closed. No words came. The HR director slid a paper across the table. Mr. Sullivan, you're being terminated effective immediately. You have 1 hour to collect your personal belongings. Security will escort you from the building. You can't do this, Eric said, turning back to Howard. I'll sue. I'll fight this. That's your right, Howard said calmly. Our legal team has compiled all evidence and is prepared to pursue criminal charges if necessary. Or you can accept termination, sign the separation agreement, and avoid jail time. Eric stared at the paper like it was a snake. Then slowly his head turned back to me. You did this, he said, voice shaking with rage. You orchestrated this whole thing because I hurt your feelings. I finally spoke. I didn't orchestrate anything, Eric. You stole money. You got caught. The investigation started before I even knew you worked here. I don't believe you. I don't care. That night Mia called. Not crying this time. Furious. How could you? She screamed. You ruined his career. You got him fired. I sat in my workshop, phone on speaker, while she vented. Years of frustration, embarrassment, anger poured out. How I humiliated her by showing up at events in old clothes. How I'd never understood her need for a better life. How I'd always been small, cheap, limited. When she finally ran out of breath, I spoke quietly. Mia, Eric stole $47,000 from the company. There's documentation. He lied, cheated, and got caught. That has nothing to do with me. You could have stopped it. You own the company. Part of it, yes. Silence. Then, what? I own part of the company. And 6 others through a holding firm. The auto parts business I built. It sold for enough that I became an investor. Been that way for months. More silence. I could almost hear her recalculating, reassessing. You have money? She asked finally. I have enough. And you never told me. You never asked. You just assumed I was still poor, still embarrassing, still not good enough for your friends. Dad, I didn't. Yes, you did. At the restaurant. At your house. Every time you looked at me like I was something to hide. I heard it all, Mia. Every word. She started crying then. Real crying, not the manipulative kind. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. And that's what hurts. I hung up. She called back immediately. I didn't answer. Weeks passed. Mia left voicemails, sent texts, tried to rebuild bridges she'd burned. I listened to them all, read every message, but didn't respond. I wasn't ready. Eric found another job quickly, probably calling in favors. But his reputation had taken a hit. Word spread in business circles about the expense fraud. Not from me, just normal industry gossip. Rick stopped by one evening with news. Silverline's doing better without him. Client satisfaction is up, team morale improved. Sometimes removing one toxic person fixes a lot of problems. I nodded, not feeling victorious. Just tired. Mia's still calling. Rick asked. Every day. You going to answer? Eventually. When I'm ready. She's your daughter, Tom. People make mistakes. I looked at him. For 3 years, Rick. 3 years of looking down on me. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. He didn't argue. Just patted my shoulder and left. That night, I looked at the photo again. The one Mia had returned. Little girl at the lake, missing her front teeth, laughing in her thrift store dress. I missed that kid. Missed the girl who thought her dad could fix anything. Where had she gone? 2 months later, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Mr. Ellery? This is Amanda from Silverline's HR department. We have a situation we wanted to make you aware of. My stomach tightened. What kind of situation? Eric Sullivan has reapplied for employment. Different division, different position, but same company. The hiring manager doesn't know his history here. We wanted to check with ownership before proceeding. I closed my eyes. What does your policy say? Terminated employees can reapply after 1 year if the separation was amicable. His wasn't. Then follow your policy. Even though he's family, especially because he's family. I won't show favoritism. If he's not eligible, he's not eligible. Amanda thanked me and hung up. I sat there wondering if I was being principled or petty. Probably both. That afternoon, Mia showed up at my house. First time she'd visited in 6 months. She looked thinner, tired, older somehow. Can we talk? She asked through the screen door. I let her in. We sat in my living room, the same room where she'd played as a child, where we'd watched movies together after her mother died. Eric didn't get the job at Silverline, she said. They rejected him. I know. Did you block him? I enforced existing policy. He's not eligible for rehire. She nodded slowly. He's been struggling. Can't find good work. His reputation's damaged. We might lose the house. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction. The bigger part just felt sad. I'm sorry things are hard, I said. But actions have consequences. I know. She twisted her hands. Dad, I came to apologize. Really apologize. Not because I want something, but because I've been awful to you. Mia's voice shook as she continued. Eric told me to distance myself from you. Said it made us look bad, having a mechanic father. He convinced me you were an embarrassment. And you believed him. I did. And I hate myself for it. Tears rolled down her cheeks. You raised me alone. Worked yourself to death giving me opportunities. And I repaid you by being ashamed. I said nothing, just listened. Mom would be so disappointed in me, she whispered. She always said you were the strongest man she knew. That real strength was quiet, steady, never needing to prove itself. My throat tightened at the mention of her mother. I lost sight of that, Mia continued. Got caught up in Eric's world, his values. Forgot that the man in the old truck taught me everything that matters. She looked at me, eyes red. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I finally see what I did. And I'm sorry. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, my old pickup sat in the driveway. Same truck Eric had mocked. Same truck that had driven me to school every day for 12 years. I'm not ready yet, I said. To forgive, to go back. I need time. I understand. But I'm glad you came. Glad you see it now. She stood, wiping her eyes. I'll go. But Dad, thank you. For everything. Including letting Eric face consequences. He needed it. We both did. After she left, I sat in the empty house, feeling something shift. Not forgiveness yet, but maybe the beginning of it. Months passed. Autumn turned to winter. I stayed busy with work, with investments, with life. Mia kept her distance, respecting my need for space, but sending occasional updates. Small things. How she was doing, what she was thinking. She'd separated from Eric. That news came in a short text. I filed for divorce. Should have done it years ago. You were right about him. I didn't respond with I told you so. Just, are you okay? Getting there. Finally, Christmas came. I spent it with Rick and his family, grateful for friends who'd never judged me by my clothes or truck. In January, another acquisition came through. Bigger than Silverline. The holding firm was growing, and so was my stake in it. I found myself in meetings with people who used to intimidate me, realizing I belonged there as much as anyone. Howard pulled me aside after one meeting. You know, Tom, when you first joined us, I wasn't sure. Thought maybe you were out of your depth. And now I think you're the smartest person in the room. You understand what most of these suits never will. That business is about people, not just profits. I drove home in my old truck thinking about that. About how I'd spent years being made to feel less than. How Mia and Eric had mocked what they didn't understand. Quiet strength. That's what Mia's mother used to call it. Not loud, not flashy, just solid and real. Spring arrived with warm weather and longer days. I bought a new property, something I'd been considering for months. A house on the lake, modest but beautiful, overlooking the same water where I'd taken Mia as a child. The real estate agent showed me around. Previous owner was downsizing. You're getting this for a steal. I signed the papers that afternoon, pay cash. The agent's eyes widened when she saw the payment method, but she didn't comment. Moving in took a week. I didn't have much stuff, never had, but I bought a few things. New furniture, nothing fancy, but comfortable. A good coffee maker. A dock for the lake where I could sit and watch the sunrise. Word got around quickly. Small town people talk. I ran into neighbors from my old street, people I'd known for decades. Heard you bought the Sanderson place, Mrs. Chen said at the grocery store. That's a beautiful property. It is, I agreed. Must be doing well for yourself. I smiled. Getting by. Mia heard about it too. She called, tentative. Dad, I heard you bought a house on the lake. The one I used to dream about as a kid. Same one. Would it be okay if I saw it sometime? I thought about it. 5 months since she'd come to apologize. 5 months of respectful distance, of her rebuilding herself, making changes. Sure, I said. Come by this weekend. Saturday afternoon, Mia's car pulled into my driveway. Not the BMW Eric had driven. An older Honda, practical and paid for. She got out slowly, looking around at the property with wide eyes. Dad, this is amazing. I gave her the tour. Small rooms but well designed. Windows overlooking the water. A deck where we could sit and talk. Remember when we used to come here? She asked, standing on the dock. I was maybe 6 or 7. You'd bring sandwiches and we'd feed bread to the ducks. I remember. I asked if we could live in a house like this someday. You said maybe if we worked hard and were lucky. We got lucky, I said. She turned to me. You got lucky. You earned it. I just married someone who pretended. We sat on the dock, feet dangling over the water. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, Mia said, I'm going back to school. Nursing program. It's what I wanted before Eric convinced me to work in his office. That's good. It's going to be hard. I'm older now, starting over. But I want to do something real. Something that helps people. I nodded. Your mother would be proud. What about you? Are you proud? I looked at my daughter. Thinner than before, tired, but somehow more herself than she'd been in years. The expensive clothes were gone, replaced by jeans and a simple shirt. The perfect hair, the careful makeup, all of it stripped away. I'm getting there, I said honestly. Summer brought change. Mia visited regularly, never asking for money or favors, just time. We'd sit on the dock, talking about small things. Her classes, my work, memories of her mother. She told me about the divorce proceedings. Eric had fought hard, trying to get half of everything. But there wasn't much to split. The house was mostly mortgaged. The cars were leased. The lifestyle they built was financed, not owned. I'm moving into an apartment, she said. 1 bedroom. It's all I need. You okay with that? More than okay. It's mine. Really mine. Not something Eric chose or controlled. I helped her move, using my old truck to haul boxes. She laughed when I pulled up. I used to be embarrassed by this truck, she said. Now it's the most reliable thing in my life. Funny how that works. Her apartment was small, but clean. We set up furniture from thrift stores, hung curtain sheets on herself. She'd learned from necessity, from being on her own for the first time in years. I'm learning who I am, she said, arranging books on a shelf. Without Eric, without his opinions, his control. Just me. Who are you? I asked. She smiled. Still figuring that out. But I think I'm someone you might be proud of. Eventually, I agreed. Rick's retirement party happened in August. The whole community turned out, everyone who'd known him over his 40-year career. Accountants, business owners, friends. I arrived early to help set up. Mia had offered to come too to help serve food, but I told her it wasn't necessary. She came anyway. I want to, she'd said. Rick was always good to me, even when I didn't deserve it. At the party, she worked quietly, filling drinks, clearing plates, chatting with guests. People who'd known her as a child watched her with surprise. The arrogant woman in designer clothes had been replaced by someone humble, genuine. Near the end of the night, I saw Eric arrive. He looked rough. Suit wrinkled, shoes scuffed. He found work eventually, but nothing like what he'd had before. He saw me at first, then me. For a moment, I thought he might leave. But he walked over, shoulders squared. "Tom," he said, "can I talk to you?" We stepped outside. The summer air was warm, cicadas singing in the trees. "I came to apologize," Eric said. "Not because I want something. I know that bridge is burned. But because I need to say it. Okay. I was an arrogant asshole. Treated you like garbage. Treated Mia worse. I convinced myself I was better than you because I had titles and degrees. Took me losing everything to realize titles don't make you a man." I nodded, saying nothing. "What you did, letting me face consequences, not interfering, that was the hardest lesson I ever learned. But I needed it." "Yes," I said. "You did." He extended his hand. I looked at it for a moment, then shook it. Firm, brief. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Eric said. "Just wanted you to know I finally get it. What real strength looks like." He left after that. Mia found me a few minutes later. "Was that Eric?" "Yeah." "What did he want?" "To apologize. To admit he was wrong." "Was it genuine?" I thought about it. "I think so. People can change. Not always, but sometimes." She hugged me then, sudden and tight. "Thank you for being patient with me. For letting me find my way back." I held her, this daughter who'd been lost and was slowly being found again. "You're doing the work. That's what matters." Inside, the party continued. Rick gave a speech thanking everyone, his eyes finding mine across the room. 40 years of friendship, of watching each other build lives from nothing. He raised his glass in my direction. I raised mine back. Fall arrived with cool air and changing leaves. One afternoon, Mia called with news in her voice. "Dad, can I come by? I have something to tell you." She arrived an hour later, and I knew immediately. The glow in her face, the careful way she moved. "I'm pregnant," she said. 3 months. I sat down slowly. "Eric's." "Yes." "We were separated, but it happened right before the divorce finalized. He doesn't know yet. Are you okay with this?" She nodded, terrified. "But okay. I want to do this alone if I have to. Finish school, raise a baby, figure it out." "You won't be alone," I said quietly. Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't expect you to. You're my daughter. That's my grandchild. You won't be alone." She broke down then, crying years of regret and relief. I held her, thinking about the little girl in the thrift store dress, about second chances, about how life had a way of coming full circle. "I want to raise him differently," she said when she could speak. "Teach him what really matters. What you try to teach me. Him." She smiled through tears. "I don't know yet, but I have a feeling. Over the next months, I helped where I could. Not money, though I made sure she had what she needed. But time. Going to doctor appointments. Helping paint the nursery in her small apartment. Teaching her things my wife had taught me about babies. Mom would know what to do," Mia said one evening, folding tiny clothes. "She'd tell you to trust yourself. That you're stronger than you think." Was she scared? When she had me, terrified. But she did it anyway. That's what love is. Being scared and doing it anyway. The baby came in March. A boy, 7 pounds, with dark hair and his mother's eyes. Mia named him Thomas, after me and my father. I held him in the hospital, this tiny person who carried our name forward. He gripped my finger with surprising strength. "He's perfect," I said. Mia looked exhausted but happy. "Dad, I want to ask you something. And you can say no." "What?" "Will you teach him?" About work, about integrity, about being a real man. Not the fake kind Eric pretended to be. The real kind. Like you. My throat tightened. Yes. And will you forgive me? Really forgive me? I know I don't deserve it yet, but you're already forgiven, I said. Have been for a while now. I just needed to see if you changed. And you have. She started crying again. Happy tears this time. Eric came to visit a week later. Mia had told him about the baby, given him the choice to be involved or not. He chose involved, but carefully, respectfully. He brought a small gift, a stuffed bear. He's beautiful, Eric said, looking at his son. I don't deserve this chance. No, Mia said firmly. You don't. But he deserves a father who tries. Can you do that? I'll try. That's all I can promise. It was enough. Not forgiveness, not trust, but a beginning. 6 months later, I sat on my dock watching the sunset paint the lake gold and red. Behind me, I heard voices. Mia's laugh, light and genuine. Baby Thomas babbling in that language only babies speak. She walked down to the dock carrying him, both of them in simple clothes, both smiling. He wanted to see Grandpa, she said. I took Thomas from her arms. He'd grown so much, filled out, becoming more person than infant. He grabbed my watch, the same old Timex I'd worn for 30 years. Sorry about the watch, Mia said. He grabs everything. It's fine. It survived worse. We sat together, 3 generations. Mia pointed at the ducks on the water. See the duckies, Tommy? Grandpa used to bring me here when I was your age. Thomas watched the birds with serious concentration, like he was memorizing every detail. I'm graduating in December, Mia said. Top of my class in the nursing program. I'm proud of you. I couldn't have done it without your help. The babysitting, the encouragement, everything. That's what family does. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I know. I forgot for a while. But I know now. The sun dipped lower, turning the sky purple and pink. Thomas fell asleep against my chest, tiny body warm and trusting. Dad, Mia said quietly. What you told Eric years ago, about real wealth not being loud. I finally understand what you meant. I looked at my daughter, at my grandson, at the lake where I'd brought Mia as a child. The house behind us was modest but paid for. The truck in the driveway was old but reliable. My bank account was comfortable, not extravagant. But this moment, this exact moment, was richer than anything money could buy. You're right, I said. Real wealth is quiet. It's sitting on a dock with people you love. It's knowing you built something that matters. It's being the person your grandkids will tell stories about someday. Thomas stirred in his sleep, his small hand still gripping my finger. What will they say about you? Mia asked. I thought about it. About the years of struggle, of being looked down on, of staying quiet when I could have been loud. About the moment in that restaurant when I'd heard my daughter's laughter and almost gave up. About choosing dignity over revenge, principle over pettiness. I hope they'll say I was steady, I answered finally. That I worked hard, loved deeply, and never needed anyone to know how much I had to prove I was enough. Mia smiled. They'll say that. I'll make sure of it. The sun disappeared below the horizon, leaving stars in its wake. Inside the house, lights glowed warm and welcoming. Tomorrow I had meetings, decisions to make, businesses to run. But tonight, I was just Tom Ellery. Mechanic, father, grandfather. A man who'd been called poor by people who didn't understand that poverty has nothing to do with bank accounts. The richest man on this lake sat on a simple dock, holding his sleeping grandson, while his daughter leaned against his shoulder and the water reflected stars like diamonds. And somewhere, in a place beyond words, I hope my wife was watching. Hope she was proud. Hope she knew that the little girl in the thrift store dress had finally come home. Thomas opened his eyes for just a moment, looking up at me with trust so complete it hurt. Then he smiled, closed his eyes again, and settled deeper into my arms. Welcome home, buddy, I whispered. Let Grandpa show you what real wealth looks like. The night grew darker. The stars grew brighter. And 3 generations sat together on that dock, proof that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building a life so genuine, so solid, so quietly magnificent that those who once looked down have to look up to see it. And then choosing to look away, because their opinion never mattered anyway.